We live in a world with TikTok and we're still putting out, 30-page ebooks. What are we doing? I am in so many conversations with CMOs, and you bring up the topic of attribution. There is no more controversial topic. I could track every touch point in the world. That does not define how someone buys. The people that determine your fate are handing you money, and that cannot be, look at how many MQLs I have, or even pipeline, or et cetera. Like, they just want to know, what is the return?
Welcome back. Another session here at the Demo Stack Studios. I have Jim Williams here at B2BMX, where we're both enjoying the conference. We snuck away to shoot this podcast. Jim, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what company you work for.
Thanks for having me. First of all, this is great. My name is Jim Williams. I'm the CMO of a company called Uptempo, and we do planning and financial management software for large enterprises. Think of Mercedes and Disney's and companies like that.
Wow.
We also do it for B2B tech. At the end of the day, our software basically puts a system in place that's occupied today by spreadsheets and PowerPoints and a whole bunch of, bullshit software that was never meant to be used by marketers to run marketing like a business. We replace all that with a system that allows you to plan better, spend smarter, execute with confidence.
What a perfect segue into what we're going to be talking about here today, right? Because very top of mind for marketers. I know it's a little bit of a doom and gloom right now.
Yeah.
Marketing budgets are getting slashed everywhere, and I feel like everything that marketing is doing is being scrutinized probably 2 or 3 times as much, right? So if you're maybe speaking to some of these marketers and they're saying, Jim, how do we tie back our impact to revenue? Any words of advice that you can share with them?
I am in so many conversations with CMOs. I belong to a CMO community. We do meetups on a weekly basis, et cetera. And you bring up the topic of attribution. There is no more controversial topic than attribution.
Yeah.
And then you listen to these arguments and you're kind of left with the feeling like, I could track every touch point in the world. That does not define how someone buys.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't even add up. Oh, great. You came in on a search thing. Our SEO must be working. Look at this great attribution.
Yeah.
They heard about your name from somewhere else. It was the right time. So many things could happen. So it's a difficult game for marketers, and proliferation of channels and data points and touch points is making it more and more difficult.
What would you say then maybe would be some of those leading indicators? Because of course, we can't necessarily say, hey, we did this event or we did this trade show and it resulted in this, but what are maybe some of those leading indicators, metrics, KPIs that you're tracking that at least lets you know, hey, marketing is doing its job, or we're getting our audience engaged and we're taking them on that journey?
Yeah. It's a series of trending graphs, right? Trending metrics. As you look, I stack those things up and you kind of draw your conclusions across it. But everything from what's happening in social media, what type of response rate are you getting, your ads, your performance marketing.
Yeah.
Are you reaching? Is the cost per lead going down? Cost per acquisition?
Yeah.
Everything to your website traffic, total traffic, organic traffic to the pages that matter, traffic that comes from SEO. It's like you got all these series of charts. I assemble them with my team every 30 days, and we have most of them instrumented, but every 30 days you put them together and you kind of draw are we heading in the right direction, not heading in the right direction? Everything comes down to the pipeline. Pipeline saves lives. That's been like my mantra.
Yeah.
And those are all leading indicators. The thing that matters the most is your pipeline growing at a consistent rate, and a rate that's going to give you coverage for, the next 3 quarters of sales targets.
Around that question of pipeline, I don't know if you have a set number of how much you think marketing should be responsible for a company's pipeline.
Never enough. Never enough. I'm sorry, I hate to cop out on you, but it totally depends.
Sure.
It depends what industry you're in. What are you selling? What is the average price point? What is your total addressable market? Who's your ideal buyer? All of these things determine what marketing is to be responsible for. I have worked my entire career. I've been in enterprise software, right? So software that's big ticket price tag north of 50 or 100K. And I've always set a benchmark target for myself as marketing is, in the 40% range, 45% range. But if you're a startup going to market, it's going to be much higher than that, much higher.
Okay.
So it depends.
I'm curious if this is what you're seeing as well. I know in 2023, it seems that the pie of net new is continuing to get smaller and smaller, right? Budget cuts, hiring freezes, not as many buyers out there. So people are now starting to turn towards their customers, maybe those customers that actually served us and we kind of forgot about. Now it's all about cross-sell, upsell, expansion. One, is that what you're seeing too within your marketing team? And two, I don't know if you can dive into some of those customer marketing initiatives that that have worked out for you.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, as soon as the economy starts to turn and you see the trend numbers pointing in the wrong direction, immediately the focus goes to, you know, a dollar of revenue is a dollar of revenue. If you can get it from a customer, great. If that makes it easier because you got a contract in place, or better yet, a relationship, or better yet, an advocate,
Yeah.
that's great. Of course, we're seeing that turn towards, holding on to the dollars you got and possibly expanding them. That's a big focus for us too. The way to get there, I'm always a believer that you've already sold the product, right? And you don't. I don't think it's a job of marketing as much to sell the product again to someone that's already bought it,
Mm.
even with new capabilities. Instead, I'd like to try and sell all the things that will keep someone loyal to your brand if you're a customer.
Okay.
Yes, they have the product, but gosh, you expect so much more from a vendor, especially a MarTech vendor, than just software,
Yeah.
right? Expertise and authority, earnings, and a sense of community, developing a network, perhaps building your own personal brand, stage, telling stories. So uh, I focus a lot on that, and a lot of it comes down to community building with a goal towards eventual advocacy, because the voice of a happy customer is worth more than anything I could put in the market.
This this is really interesting to hear. I've never looked at it if like the expectations of what the customer has, especially from a marketing company, right?
Yeah.
And you're selling to marketers.
Right.
And you listed so many cool things there. A sense of expertise, right? Are they getting better at their job? A sense of community. Are we surrounding them with their peers and they're getting to ask questions? Building personal brands, which seems to be more and more important. Is there ways that you can share maybe at what you've done at Uptempo or in previous jobs that you've kind of facilitated that and helped your customers gain those benefits?
Everything's a work in progress, I'll say.
Sure.
So I've been out of Uptempo now for 14 months. So we're still getting started in many ways on this journey. But
Sure.
I believe firmly that the future of marketing is community. It's one and the same.
Yeah.
We all want to be part of a community. And I think that people learn more from their peers and from each other than they will from any classroom, any book, any case study, just
Yeah.
by talking to a peer that's trying to do the same thing.
Hmm.
And so building community has been big. I also think that there's a variety of community platforms or
Yes.
places that
Yeah.
represent community. Well, clearly LinkedIn, social media, et cetera, dedicated community platforms. I personally think Slack is the ultimate community tool. I love it. I think it's easy. It's intuitive. It offers you all the capabilities you need to engage with people one-on-one, small groups, as a whole,
Yep.
polling, sharing content, people going off and creating their own narrow focus groups or whatever. So building a Slack community for not just our customer, but all the people that we target. We target people that are in marketing operations and strategic roles in marketing operations.
Yeah.
My goal is to build a community in Slack on a digital platform and then engage with them. Like, for example, we at this event this morning held a CMO breakfast, working
saw
with a
that.
partner. We
Yeah.
had 25 CMOs in the room talking exactly about the topics you're asking me about.
Yeah.
What's happening in the market? What do we do with budget cuts, et cetera? So that's community. And
Yeah.
that they will remember the conversation, sure, but they'll remember, oh yeah, there was that company Uptempo that got that thing together. That's where I met Jeff. People are going to remember that. That's powerful, Mark.
Yeah. I think community can mean so many different things. And you outlined Slack communities. I mean, even getting together a group of 25 CMOs and getting them to talk and interact and network with each other and take that offline and continue that. That's another great sense of community. You hit on something that I was going to ask you, and so we can dive in. Has there been anything in terms of budget cuts that you've reduced? And then my follow-up would be like, what would you say you're doubling down on? And maybe we've already talked about that, but yeah, I don't know if you want to speak from your perspective or even the 25 CMOs that you met with this morning.
It was a big topic. I've been affected like everyone else. We had the squeeze. I have a CFO, just like every one of these
Sure.
companies have a
Yep.
CFO. And
Yep.
CFOs literally, they just look at the prevailing wind and they say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Reduce travel budgets. Oh, well, let's raise prices. Let's do that. And then go to marketing. That's who else has that big pile of money, discretionary funds that they can squeeze. So of course I've had that conversation.
Yep.
Everybody else in the room had it too. I ran an informal survey. 70% of the people who responded has had to reduce their budget between 10 and 20% this year.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like everyone's had to do the same thing. For us, it's a lot of obvious choices too. Like I know you were going to ask about field marketing. I personally believe that after the last couple of years we've had getting together face to face, looking someone in the eye, having a beer with them, learning about their kids, whatever it might be, is really, really valuable. Especially if you're trying to sell to someone that's in a pretty senior position. So I'm hesitant to cut field marketing because I do think it makes a difference. It definitely accelerates pipeline.
Yeah.
It's not always the best at creating pipeline, but it accelerates pipeline. So I haven't made that many changes there, but I certainly I've made some changes for sure.
It sounds like it's almost like a little bit of here, a little bit of that. It's not like one program or one type of campaign that you're like, hey, we're not doing field marketing. It's just a little bit reduction in this area. Am I hearing that right?
I don't think you can. I know that like we've delayed some headcounts and I've turned to outsourcing and working with consultants and contractors. You have a bit more control over the spend there. It's also like a great try before you buy type of approach, you know, with talent. And there's a lot of good talent, unfortunately, available right now in the marketplace.
So going back to the field marketing, I loved how you thought about it. And I'm really glad you said that, of like the importance of the face-to-face, especially the past couple of years, we've been a little bit locked up. I think going back to what you said, accelerating pipeline, I think that's really interesting, right? Because typically marketers are looking like dollars in, dollars out, or maybe that's how the CFO or their sales team is looking at it. Sounds like you don't necessarily look at that, or are you a little bit more intentional of, hey, we're going to attend this event because maybe we're already in the pipeline with some of these companies?
Oh, we definitely go through and look at that for sure. We want to figure out whether or not people that we're already engaged with are going to be at these events. So that's a big part of what we do.
Okay.
Also, I'll be honest with you, like every one of the sponsors at these shows is spending a big chunk of money. And I know for a fact that they're probably not tracking it that well because they don't have any marketing financial system in place. A lot of times it's the sponsor of the show. That represents some interesting conversations to have.
It's funny you mentioned that. We kind of look at it the same way, right? Because traditionally marketers' KPIs for some of these trade shows is badge scans. And from Chili Piper's perspective, it kind of leans into it, but you spend thousands of dollars to meet your buyers face to face, only to capture their email address and follow up with them digitally. Why don't you pressure test that a little bit? And if you're having a good conversation, book that demo right then and there, right? And get them into your pipeline. So that's also been a pretty good source for us in terms of, hey, we know you're investing in these trade shows. What better way to actually track pipeline than to pressure test some of these conversations? I always say, if they're like, no, just follow up with me on email, are they really a good buyer?
Right.
Probably not, right? But if you've had that good conversation, then you can take it a step further. So I love the way you're looking at that. Is there anything that you're really doubling down on in terms of your marketing budget or where you're focused?
Data quality is incredibly important, incredibly important. Like if you look at the agenda for this event that we're at, it's like ABM, ABM, ABM.
Yeah.
You go and talk to 20 people about ABM and maybe 19 of them will kind of shrug their shoulders and be like, I don't really know what we're doing. So it's like, it's weird. There's a little bit of the emperor. You were asking about trends, a bit of the emperor with no clothes there in some cases. But what I do know is data quality is super, super important, right? We target 7,000 businesses in the world that can buy our stuff. And within those businesses, there's certainly a buying committee, but we know what those buyer roles look like. We know the people we need to target, and making sure we have that database represented for us, for our marketing, for our sales initiatives, for the BDR team is really, really important. Getting that data structure in place such that not only can we target the right people, but we can trigger actions to the right accounts based on the right things. So we can attack them from a multi-channel way, right? So we can stalk them, follow them around the internet and make sure we're in their streams and feeds, et cetera. You know, that's an important part of our strategy. And I think that the dollar invested there is as good a dollar as any.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe it is some we don't choose to focus on too much, but it has utmost importance, especially if you have only 7,000 businesses that you can sell to, right?
Yeah, that's right.
How can marketers at any stage of their career level themselves up to being a CMO, if that's what they're aiming for?
It's a really good question. You know, I had a meeting with my team and walked through the fundamentals of how private equity owned businesses operate. What's measured? Why is it measured? What's the outcome? How do we get that? How do they determine value? You know, every good company is bought, right? It's bought by another investor or it's bought by the public, maybe, if that's where you go. They get bought. This is the way it is. And it's surprising how many people don't have a fundamental understanding of actually the mechanics of business, like
Yeah.
understanding the financial terms, etc. And, if you want to become an executive and you want to have the authority to control 10%, 15% of this year's ARR target and spend it freely to drive growth, you have to be able to speak to some level of confidence, the language of finance, the language of business.
Yeah.
Sure.
Any resources that like you recommend to your team, or how would they go about doing this? Or is it just like finance
Well,
101?
thank God, like everything's available on the
It's
interweb
true.
right now.
Yeah,
Like every major VC firm has someone, they've become content specialists that publish benchmarks on,
yeah.
what's the rule of 40 and is it really the rule of 50 and how that's trending right now and how's that become, what's CAC to LTV ratio? What's
Yeah.
the good parts about that? You can learn that stuff. It's not always the most exciting stuff in the world if you're a marketer, but spend the time to at least get grounded in that. The people that determine your fate are handing you money and they want to understand, like I said, the financial return on that.
Yeah.
You have to be able to articulate that. And it cannot be, look at how many MQLs I have or even pipeline or et cetera. Like they just want to know, what is the return? What's the return we're getting?
I'm curious, who do you go for marketing inspiration? Or is there maybe some outside sources that inspire you to think creatively around how you approach marketing?
It's hard. B2B it's tough. Right? It's not like it's not always the most exciting stuff in the world. And I think it needs to be more exciting. Like I had this conversation with my team and we were laughing about it on the way over here. Like we live in a world with TikTok and we're still putting out, 30-page ebooks. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? We need to change and change quickly. It's a short attention span theater here. And we just need a more snackable, bite-sized content. So I'm always looking for inspiration.
Jim, this has been a fantastic conversation. So appreciate you coming on here, and glad we got a chance to do this.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much for the invite. It's fun.
Yeah, of course.